attached to the sport company in the West Nova. So
Attached to sport.
yeah, so it'd be more, you know,
I'm
like
recording.
the funny anecdotes, that sort of thing. So
I must tell you, the camera, you have the greatest face for
Right?
camera. You have the greatest face for camera.
yeah,
It's just,
Oh,
no,
I-
you look great.
Oh, I
The
don't
camera,
talk that.
no, you have to look at him. Not
yeah, you
look
gotta look at me. You can't
But
flirt with
I
her.
gotta tell you, you look really handsome on
Well, I
camera.
tell you, see, I'm a little kind of deaf, and I do a lot of watching the person's mouth to see.
Okay, you look at him.
Yeah, yeah.
Do
So
that, turn that.
okay, so can you shift this way a little bit
There.
and try to make eye contact with me?
Okay.
And tell me about your best friend in the West Novas.
Well, I had a fellow named Mace Wambold. He was Sergeant Wambold. And my driver was a little fellow by the name of Timmy Camone. They were from down here in the valley. And as I say, I was moved in with them as they had lost their mechanic because he got wounded, and he was sent back, and I was sent up from the workshop as to take over his position into the regiment. And I've never been with the regiment before, and I went in and met Captain Smith, who was their platoon officer, and we got along very well. He was a good, very fine man as far as I'm concerned, because he never interfered with me, and anyway, he just told me, you know your job, and go ahead and do it. And that's what I did, and had no problems.
So what happened to your best friend?
Well, they come back within, and there was another fellow, he died down in Pictou there, a fellow by Corporal O'Brien. He was a corporal in the platoon support company, and I talked to him after a few years after the war down in Pictou, and so but I understand he passed away.
But he made it through the war.
Pardon?
But he made it
He
through the
made
war.
it through the
Oh,
war.
that's good.
Mace made it through the war, and Camone made it through the war.
Good to hear. What's your happiest memory of your time with the West Novas?
Well, I had a lot of happy times with them because we took everything, and when we went over from the Adriatic coast up in through to Florence, and it was just like going on a motor crusade, and the carriers fell in, one company fell in the next company, the Nova Scotia, and the Carleton York, and the Bandoos, and we followed the 48 Highlanders and the second brigade. We were third brigade, and then the first brigade carriers, and that was ahead of us because we always went with the carriers, the track vehicles, because we always took on the dirt track. So we was always happy together, and that was a good happy trip. It was just like a motor brigade, but most of the time he was moving at night.
Makes it tough. What's the bravest thing you ever saw?
Pardon?
What do you think was the bravest thing you ever saw?
Well, where I went, a couple of times I've seen a lot of brave men there. I couldn't say, I'd say they were all brave. Anybody who was over there, I'd say it was scarce, but you didn't let the fellow next to you know that you was. That was the way I've had some scary times, but I'm nervous.
Well, tell me about that scary time. Like, what do you think was the time that you were most afraid?
Well, like one time I went up to get a carrier that was broke down. They went up at night, they fixed it, and within a minute we started it, got it going, the coil wire was broke off. Again, like I found it, got it going, and we started out, and there were about 4 mortar shells landed around us, but they weren't close, but they was scary. And then them damn guinea hens, they'd scare the heck out of you. You're going along in the night, and a guinea hen up a tree, and you take and startle them, and it's just like somebody hollering, "Go back, go back!" And geez, your hair in the back of your neck, it just straight up.
It's funny.
Yeah.
What did you hate most about your time in the West Novas?
I never hated anything about the West Novas, but in anything of the job or anything like that. I used to get browned out with not having the proper parts and stuff like that to do your job. That was my thing, because you have vehicles sitting there and you couldn't let them go because you didn't have the bogey wheels would be cut, and when the stone get in them and they'd go up onto the track and cut pieces out of them. Well, you'd have to, it could move, it could go, but you could, if it had to, but you couldn't have the parts to fix it.
I imagine if you're fixing ruined vehicles, there might be evidence of the men who had been in them that had gotten hurt. Did you see that a lot?
Not too much of men getting hurt into them, because there was never any of them I fixed. If they were anything that was over like that was busted or smashed or going over bank or hit, they went back to the workshop. See, I just done running repairs. Like if a bogey went off on it, I'd drag it up, haul the bogey up, put a new one on. If it broke a track, I repaired the track. Or if the motor quit, the fuel pump or anything, that was my job to go and repair all that.
I gotcha. You're a handy guy. Who was your favorite officer or NCO?
Well, in there was Captain Smith. He was mostly the man I had to do business with, and with being into there, because I was the only mechanic there. And there was another mechanic into the mortar platoon, but him and I just only seen one another every so often, because he was in one section, I was in another.
Right. What was the toughest battle for you?
Well, I couldn't say I had any tough battles, because they were good the drivers and that was good, and they kept their vehicles, the maintenance on their vehicles up. And if you keep the maintenance on the vehicles up, the mechanic had it easy.
Okay.
But see, I was never up right into the front lines. I was always back until if a carrier was up and broke down up front, well then I'd go up and repair it.
Were you ever nearby when a fellow Canadian soldier was hit?
No, I couldn't say I was, no.
That's a good thing. What was the worst thing you ever saw in the war?
Well, 2 men being burnt in a tank.
Where was that? Tell me about the circumstances.
Well, we was coming down, going up, and there was a tank hit, and we stopped. When the driver was out, he got out, and he was afire. We put him out, wrapped him up, put him out, and went up and lived at the top of the turret of the tank, and it was, you couldn't, I don't own a barbecue. I wouldn't.
No. I wouldn't want to be a tanker. No, it'd be awful. Yeah. That's an awful thing to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't do nothing because they're down there in the fire.
That's rough. Okay. That I won't. Do you have anything else that you'd want to say about your time with the West Novas, or any story that you think is a good story?
I did what they wanted me to do several times. I went up into on an outpost when they needed an extra man. I didn't have to go, but I was there and I went with them.
Did you ever see any action in those cases?
Well, I never actually seen, I'll tell you, I never was in any danger, only when they were shelling. Because the artillery was behind us, and they were trying to start shelling over to try to get the artillery, and they'd put a few shells in around where we were.
Gotcha. Well, that's great. There we go. I won't keep you from your buddies any longer. So can I get